Okay, in this little tutorial video, I'm going to be answering the questions from the quiz, just for the sake of review. So let's start with number 1. All right, so here we have 4x cubed minus 2x squared minus 6x plus 3. We are going to factor this one by grouping. All right, so I'm going to group these, and then in the first one, I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor of 2x cubed, and that's going to leave me with a 2x minus 1. Sorry, I factored out 2x squared, okay? Then in this one, I'm going to factor out the 3. All right, so if I factor out the 3, then I'm going to be left with, actually, I'm going to factor out a negative 3. And it's going to leave me with 2x minus 1. Okay, so now you see we have this common binomial here, and then we have our factors, our greatest common factors of 2x squared minus 3. So our final answer, we would write that as 2x squared minus 3, and then the common binomial of 2x minus 1. Okay, that would be the answer to number 1. All right, let's take a look at number 2. So in number 2, we have 3x cubed minus 432x. All right, so we do not have the difference of squares or cubes, but we can factor out the greatest common factor first of 3x. Now, when we factor out 3x, we're going to be left with x squared minus 144. Okay, so here, 3x is one of our factors, but then what we have inside this parentheses, this binomial, is x squared minus 44. Well, that is the difference of two squares. So remember your difference of two squares formula here. All right, when we have a squared minus b squared, we can factor it as the square root of a plus the square root of b, and then a minus b. So a plus b, a minus b. So as we continue working this one out, one of our factors is 3x, but then we're going to have x plus 12 and x minus 12, because 12 is the square root of 144, and x is the square root of x squared. So then that would be your final answer. Okay? All right, number 3. All right, so in this one we have 7x to the 4th plus 56x. Again, this is not the sum of cubes, okay, but we could start by factoring out the 7 and the x because they both have an x. All right, so let's factor out 7x, and then what would be left would be x to the 3rd plus 8. All right, well, x to the 3rd plus 8 is the sum of cubes. X cubed, the cube root of x cubed is x, and the cube root of 8 is 2. So then we're going to have to remember how to factor the sum of cubes. So let's review that real quick. So the sum of cubes, we have a cubed plus b cubed. We factor that with the cube roots. So the cube root of a and b, we have a plus b, and then times the a squared minus a times b and plus b squared. Okay, so this again is something that we have to use to factor cube roots. So in our x cubed plus 8, the cube root of x cubed is x, and the cube root of 8 is 2. So as we continue working, we have 7x, and then we're going to have x plus 2, our cube roots, and then we're going to have a squared, and then minus a times b, and then plus b squared, which would be 4. And that would be your final factored. Everything else in here is factored. All right, now going. Okay, this one, 81 minus z plus 5 squared. First thing we have to do here is this parentheses. We're going to have z plus 5 squared. Okay, now, z plus 5 squared, you could just FOIL it, z plus 5. So z plus 5 times z plus 5. Okay, and when you FOIL that, or you may remember that that z plus 5 is going to end up with z squared, a squared, and then a times b times 2, okay? Remember our formula. It's a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, okay? So the 2ab is 2 times 5, which is 10, and then 10z. So that's going to be plus 10z, and then b squared is 25. So plus 25, okay? But now we have this minus sign that has to be applied to every one of these terms in this trinomial. So we have 81 minus z squared minus 10z and minus 25. Now we need to combine our like terms, which is basically the 81 and the minus 25. So then we could say we have negative z squared minus 10z minus 56, okay? Actually, plus 56, sorry, because that's 81. That's 81 minus 25 would be 56. All right, now what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to factor out this negative, okay, so that we end up with this positive z squared. So if we're factoring this, factor out the negative, and we would have z squared plus 10z minus 56, okay? So we have factored out this negative, or it's one of our factors, but then we could factor z squared plus 10z minus 56. Well, this is our trinomial. We're looking for the factors of negative 56 that equal 10, and that's going to be 8 times, that's going to be 14 times 4, all right? And we need it to be a positive 10, so we're going to do 14 minus 4, which will make it a negative 56. So negative, and then we have z plus 14 times z minus 4. And that would be your final answer, okay? All right, number 5. Okay, so this one is 4x squared minus 20xy plus 20y squared. Now, you can always use our X puzzle or the snowflake puzzle in order to work this out. You can multiply 4 times 25 and get 100. Find the factors of 100 that equal negative 20, which would be 10. But you may realize that this is a perfect square trinomial because we have a squared and b squared, and a times b times 2 would give you negative 20. Let's take a look at these real quick. So just as a reminder, if you have a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, then you can factor it as a plus b squared. Or a squared minus 2ab plus b squared equals a minus b squared. Basically, what I'm showing you here is that this first term is a perfect square and the second term is a perfect square. And if you multiply those square roots times each other and then times 2 and you get the middle term, then you have a perfect square trinomial. So this would factor like this. The square root of 4x squared is 2x, and the square root of 25y squared is 5y, okay? So then to factor it, it's going to be 2x plus 5y. Actually, this one has to be minus 5y, okay? And then all of that is squared, okay? So again, if we have 2x squared, we get 4x squared. And then minus 5y squared is plus 25y squared. And if you multiply 2x times negative 5y, you get negative 10xy. And then times 2 would give you negative 20xy. All right. Number 6. We have 6x squared plus 3x minus 63. So for this one, we do not have a perfect square trinomial. We're just going to need to factor it. I'm going to use the snowflake method, we call it. I'm going to multiply. Actually, the first thing I'm going to need to do is factor out the greatest common factor of 3, okay? So if we take out the 3, we are left with 2x squared plus 1x minus 21, okay? So the 3 is going to be part of one of our factors, but now we need to factor this 2x squared plus x minus 21. I'm going to multiply a times b. 2 times negative 21 is negative 42. So I'm looking for the factors of negative 42 that equal 1. That's the value of b. Well, the factors of 42 that equal 1 is going to be 7 times 6. When I combine them or add them, I need to be a positive 1. So I'm going to use 7 and negative 6. And remember this little snowflake method, we could take the coefficient of the x squared term, kind of considered as our denominator, 2, and that's what goes with the x. In this first one, 2x plus 7, that is already simplified. There's no common factor, so that will be one of our factors, 2x plus 7. And also, on this 2x minus 6, we could factor that to negative 3 over 1x. So that's going to be x minus 3. And then don't forget the 3 at the beginning, okay? 3. So that would be our factored form, okay? 3 times 2x plus 7 times x minus 3. And then the last one. Okay, this one gives you the area of a rectangle, and it gives you the length. So you might see this as a division problem, because if you know the length times the width equals the area, so you would divide the given measurement. But what we also realize is if the area is a trinomial, then basically we're looking for the two factors that were multiplied to get that. One of those factors is 2x minus 5. But all we really need to do is take the trinomial 2x plus 1, or 2x squared plus 1x minus 15, and we need to factor it, okay? So we could use our snowflake method. We multiply 2 times negative 15, and we get negative 30. So we're looking for the factors of negative 30 that equal 1, and that's going to be 6 times 5. And because 6 times 5 could be 30, but we need one of them to be negative, and we need, when we combine them, we need a positive 1. So that's going to be a 6 and a negative 5. And then with our snowflake method, we use this 2 as our denominator, kind of like our denominator. It's not really a denominator, but, and then we are going to simplify these. So 6 over 2x could simplify to 3 over 1x. And then you see the factor here, negative 5 over 2x. That's actually was the one that was given to you, 2x minus 5. So the factors are that 2x minus 5 times the other factor, which is this simplified 1x plus 3. So we would say x plus 3. So technically, what we were looking for, the other measurement, the length, was x plus 3. All right, and that's a review of the quiz.